The grand ballroom of Mar-a-Lago shimmered under crystal chandeliers, its opulence a fitting backdrop for the annual charity gala. Donald Trump stood center stage, his tailored suit gleaming under the spotlight as he prepared to deliver what was meant to be a polished speech on patriotism and resilience. But something shifted in him the moment he glanced down at the teleprompter. The name Anne MacLeod Trump stared back at him like an unspoken plea from the past. His voice faltered mid-sentence, cracking with an emotion no one had seen before. He stepped away from the podium, gripping it tightly as tears welled up in his eyes. "My mother," he began, abandoning the script entirely, "was the strongest person I ever knew." His words hung heavy in the air, raw and unfiltered, catching everyone off guard. Cameras zoomed in closer, capturing every tremor in his voice, every tear that traced his cheek. Backstage whispers erupted among aides who exchanged panicked glances. "What do we do?" murmured Hope Hicks, clutching her clipboard. "Let him finish," replied Keith Schiller firmly, though uncertainty lingered in his tone. Trump's hands trembled as he gripped the edges of the lectern, leaning forward slightly as if drawing strength from some invisible force. Memories flooded his mind. His mother baking oatcakes in their modest Queen's home, her soft Scottish lilt urging him to persevere through failures, her unwavering belief that hard work could conquer anything. "She didn't have much," he continued, his voice thick with emotion, "but she gave everything she had to her family. She taught me about sacrifice, about dignity, about love." The room fell silent except for the faint rustle of silk gowns and tuxedos, as guests absorbed the gravity of the moment. For once, there were no interruptions, no chants of USA, just a man bearing his soul. Melania sat in the front row, her expression unreadable, but her fingers nervously twisting the edge of her clutch. Ivanka leaned over to whisper, "This changes everything," her voice barely audible above the collective gasp of the audience. Every camera lens trained on Trump seemed to magnify his vulnerability. Millions watched live as tears streamed down his face, his usual bravado replaced by a fragile honesty few had witnessed. Social media lit up instantly, hashtags trending within seconds. "Trump tears," "Marianne legacy," treated one viewer, while another retorted, "It's all an act." A calculated move to soften his image. Supporters flooded comment sections with messages of empathy, sharing stories of their own mother's sacrifices. Critics dissected his body language, accusing him of staging the moment for publicity. In living rooms across America, reactions varied wildly. Some viewers wiped away tears, moved by the rare glimpse into Trump's private world. Others scoffed, convinced this was yet another performance designed to manipulate public perception. Within minutes, Twitter exploded into chaos. Pundits debated whether the tribute was genuine or strategic, while late-night hosts scrambled to craft monologues around the spectacle. Fox News anchors praised Trump's courage, calling it a defining moment of authenticity. CNN analysts questioned the timing, suggesting it might distract from recent controversies. "Why now?" asked Rachel Maddow during a live segment. "Is this really about honoring his mother, or is it damage control wrapped in nostalgia?" Meanwhile, fans rallied behind him online. A viral thread titled "Even Celebrities Cry" featured photoshopped images of Trump alongside other famous figures caught in moments of emotional transparency. Amidst the digital storm, Trump's phone buzzed incessantly backstage. Texts poured in from allies and adversaries alike, each offering condolences, congratulations, or thinly veiled skepticism. Jared Kushner hovered nearby, scrolling through tweets with a furrowed brow. "This could go either way," he muttered under his breath. Backstage, after the gala, tensions simmered among Trump's inner circle. Ivanka paced the room, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "Dad needs to capitalize on this moment," she insisted, clutching a notebook filled with ideas. A memoir or even a documentary series about Grandma Marianne could redefine his legacy. Melania crossed her arms, her expression guarded. Ivanka, you're rushing into this without thinking it through, she said softly but firmly. This isn't just about politics, it's personal. He needs time to process, not exploit. Jared Kushner stepped forward, adjusting his tie. We can't ignore the opportunity here, he interjected diplomatically. The public is watching. If we frame this right, it could shift perceptions in our favor. But at what cost? Melania shot back, her voice tinged with frustration. Every move we make becomes fodder for critics. Do you really think they'll see sincerity if we act too quickly? Ivanka sighed, glancing at her stepmother. If we don't take control of the narrative, someone else will. And trust me, we won't like how they spin it. Trump listened silently from the corner, his face unreadable. The weight of their conflicting opinions pressed down on him as he realized the decision ultimately rested with him. Later that night, alone in his study, Trump found himself lost in memories of Queens. The modest brick house where he grew up, the smell of oatcakes wafting through the kitchen. His mother, Marianne, stood over the stove, humming a Scottish tune while lecturing him on perseverance. Hard work builds character, she'd say, her brogue thick but warm. Never forget where you came from, Donald. Those lessons had driven him to chase success relentlessly, yet now they felt bittersweet. How far he'd strayed from those humble beginnings. The chaos of fame, the relentless scrutiny, seemed worlds apart from the simplicity of his childhood. He stared at an old photograph on his desk. Marianne smiling beside him at his first Little League game. Her eyes held a quiet strength that still haunted him. Had he honored her sacrifices enough? Or had he let ambition overshadow gratitude? By morning, news outlets dissected every detail of the tribute. Headlines ranged from sympathetic, Trump's rare moment of vulnerability, to scathing. Is this just another PR stunt? A rival politician seized the moment during a press conference. Donald Trump talks about his immigrant mother, yet his policies tear families apart. Senator Harris declared sharply, how can we trust his words when his actions tell a different story? Social media amplified the criticism, with users drawing parallels between Marianne's journey and modern immigration struggles. Supporters defended him fiercely, but detractors painted him as hypocritical, a man disconnected from the very values he claimed to embody. Trump scrolled through the coverage on his phone, each article fueling his frustration. Why couldn't they see beyond the headlines? Didn't they understand how deeply his mother's memory shaped him? That evening, Trump sat alone in his private library, surrounded by books he rarely opened. Memories flooded his mind. Times he'd cancelled family dinners for business meetings, birthdays forgotten amid campaign rallies. I should have done more, he muttered under his breath, staring at another faded photo of Marianne. She'd always supported him, even when others doubted his ambitions. Yet how often had he truly thanked her? Regret gnawed at him. He'd spent decades building empires, chasing approval, but now wondered if any of it mattered without the people who mattered most. What would she think of him today, standing in the eye of such a storm? At breakfast the next day, tempers flared again. Ivanka pushed her chair back, exasperated. We can't sit around waiting for the media to decide Dad's fate. We need to act. Melania placed a calming hand on Trump's arm. Acting too soon will only validate their accusations. They'll twist everything into something ugly. Jared tried to mediate. There's a middle ground here. Maybe start small. A heartfelt statement, then gauge the response before committing to anything bigger. But Trump remained silent, torn between their advice. Each suggestion carried risks, and he couldn't shake the feeling that no matter what he chose, someone would be disappointed, including himself. Just as tensions eased slightly, leaked emails surfaced online. Sent weeks before the gala, they outlined plans for a strategic tribute designed to soften Trump's image. Critics pounced, accusing him of orchestrating the entire event for publicity. "This proves it was fake," one pundit declared on live TV. "All smoke, no fire." Trump slammed his fist on the table, furious. "It wasn't staged," he snapped to his team. "Sometimes does everyone assume I'm incapable of genuine emotion?" Despite his denial, doubt spread like wildfire. Even some supporters hesitated, unsure whether to believe him. Isolation crept in, leaving him questioning whom he could trust. As days passed, Trump withdrew further, retreating to his study late at night. Advisors knocked on his door with pitches and strategies, but he waved them away. "Leave me alone," he growled, sinking into an armchair. Who truly understood him? Ivanka wanted to rebuild his brand. Melania sought to shield him from further pain. Jared aimed to reshape his legacy. But none seemed to grasp the depth of his turmoil. He stared out the window, the city lights twinkling below. Fame had brought him power, wealth, influence. But at what price? In the solitude of his thoughts, he wondered if anyone saw him as more than a caricature, a headline, a spectacle. And somewhere deep inside, he feared the answer might be no. The studio lights burned brightly as Donald Trump sat across from a sharp-eyed anchor, his usual confidence faltering under relentless questioning. "Mr. Trump," the interviewer pressed, leaning forward with a skeptical smirk. "Many are calling your tribute staged, a calculated PR move. How do you respond?" Trump's jaw tightened, his fingers gripping the armrest of his chair. "I've already addressed this," he snapped, his voice rising. "It was real. My mother meant everything to me, but the anchor wasn't done." "Then why did leaked emails suggest otherwise? Isn't it convenient that this emotional moment came at such a critical time for your image?" Something inside Trump snapped. His face flushed red, and without another word, he stood abruptly, shoving back his chair. Cameras followed him as he stormed off set, leaving the anchor mid-sentence. Social media erupted instantly. Hashtags like Trump meltdown trended within minutes. "Did you see that?" Hope Hicks whispered urgently into her phone backstage. "We need damage control, now!" Back home, Trump retreated to his private study, shutting the door firmly behind him. The room was dimly lit, walls lined with framed photographs of happier times, his wedding day, campaign rallies, and countless images of Anne MacLeod Trump. He sank into an armchair, staring blankly at a black and white photo of his mother baking oatcakes in their queen's kitchen. Her smile seemed to mock him now, reminding him of all he'd left unsaid. The interview replayed in his mind, the accusations, the smirks, the doubt etched on every viewer's face. Why couldn't they understand? He clenched his fists, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. For once, he hadn't been performing. He'd been honest. Yet here he was again, boxed in by perceptions he couldn't escape. Fury coursed through him as he paced the room. "They twist everything," he muttered aloud, kicking aside a stray book. But beneath the anger lay something deeper, a gnawing insecurity. Was he truly incapable of sincerity in the public eye? Had years of projecting strength stripped him of authenticity? He stopped pacing, catching sight of himself in a mirror. The reflection staring back looked tired, older than he felt. Who was he anymore? A businessman? A politician? Or just a man trying and failing to honor his mother's legacy? Desperation drove him to pick up the phone. "Marianne," he said hoarsely when she answered. "I need to talk." There was a pause before her calm voice replied, "Donald, what's wrong?" He hesitated, then let it spill. The interview, the backlash, the doubts eating away at him. "I don't know who I am anymore," he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "Everyone thinks I'm faking it, even when I'm not." Marianne listened patiently, her silence offering solace. When she finally spoke, her tone carried the weight of wisdom earned over decades. "You're not alone in feeling this way," she said gently. "Let me tell you something Mom always said. Strength isn't about never falling, Marianne continued, quoting their mother. It's about getting back up, even when everyone's watching. Trump closed his eyes, letting the words sink in. They resonated deeply, cutting through the noise in his head. Strength wasn't perfection, it was resilience. It wasn't avoiding failure, but rising above it. For the first time in days, clarity began to emerge. He didn't have to prove anything to the world. Not right now. What mattered was staying true to himself, honoring his mother's memory in his own way. Slowly, determination replaced despair. "I'll figure this out," he told Marianne firmly. "Thanks, sis." As he hung up, a new resolve settled over him. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to take it, one step at a time. Within minutes of Trump's abrupt exit from the interview, social media exploded into chaos. Hashtags like Trump meltdown and real democracy trended globally, accompanied by a barrage of polarized reactions. Supporters rallied behind him, flooding timelines with messages of empathy. "Even legends cry," one fan tweeted, alongside an old photo of Trump with his mother. Critics, however, seized the moment to accuse him of manipulation. "Classic Trump, always playing the victim," wrote a prominent journalist, sparking heated debates in comment sections. Late-night hosts crafted biting monologues about the meltdown, while political analysts dissected every nuance of his behavior. Amidst the noise, Melania scrolled through her phone, shaking her head at the vitriol. "They don't understand him," she murmured softly to herself. Hope Hicks rushed into the room, clutching her tablet. "Sir, we need to respond before this spirals further." But Trump remained silent, still reeling from the confrontation. Later that evening, Ivanka took charge, determined to steer the narrative back on track. Sitting at a sleek desk in her Manhattan apartment, she drafted a heartfelt statement. "While some may question the sincerity of my father's emotions, those who truly know him understand how deeply he loved his mother," she wrote, emphasizing both vulnerability and strength. Melania joined her shortly after, offering quiet but unwavering support. "You're doing the right thing," she said, placing a reassuring hand on Ivanka's shoulder. "He needs us now more than ever." Other family members chimed in via phone calls, urging Trump to address the situation directly. "Dad, you can't let them define you," Eric advised over speakerphone. "Take control of your story." When Ivanka presented the draft to Trump, he hesitated before nodding slowly. "Fine," he said gruffly. "Let's get it out there." Days later, seeking solace away from the relentless spotlight, Trump found himself standing outside his childhood home in Queens. The modest brick house seemed smaller now, its once vibrant garden overgrown with weeds. Yet stepping inside felt like crossing into another world, a sanctuary of memories untouched by fame. He wandered through empty rooms, each corner whispering echoes of the past. In the kitchen, he could almost smell the oatcakes his mother used to bake, hear her soft Scottish lilt as she taught him lessons about perseverance. "Hard work builds character," she'd say, her eyes twinkling with pride. Tears welled up unexpectedly as he ran his fingers along the edge of the dining table where family meals had once been shared. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel, not as a public figure, but as a son mourning the woman who shaped him. That night, inspired by the visit, Trump retrieved an old, leather-bound journal from the depths of his closet. It had been decades since he last wrote anything personal, yet now the pages called to him like a lifeline. Pen in hand, he began pouring out raw thoughts about fame, ambition, and the crushing weight of expectations. "Why does everyone expect me to be invincible?" he scribbled furiously. "I'm human." As words spilled onto the page, clarity emerged. Writing became cathartic, a way to untangle the web of emotions suffocating him. By morning, the journal was filled with reflections that no press release or interview could capture. A glimpse into the man behind the headlines. Recognizing the toll this ordeal had taken on Trump's mental health, Melania insisted on professional help. "You can't keep bottling everything up," she urged gently during breakfast. "It's okay to ask for support." At first, Trump resisted, scoffing at the idea. "Therapy? That's for people who can't handle life." But Melania's persistence wore him down. "You've faced worse battles than this," she reminded him. "Don't let pride stand in the way of healing." Reluctantly, he agreed, scheduling a private session under strict confidentiality. As he walked into the therapist's office days later, apprehension mingled with curiosity. What would it feel like to truly open up? The therapy sessions proved transformative. At first, Trump struggled to articulate his feelings, accustomed to projecting strength rather than vulnerability. But gradually, buried emotions surfaced: guilt over neglecting his family, regret over missed opportunities with his mother, frustration with constant scrutiny. "I never wanted any of this," he admitted during one session, his voice trembling. "All I wanted was to make her proud." Through guided conversations, he began confronting these truths, learning to embrace vulnerability without fear of judgment. Each revelation brought a sense of relief, chipping away at the armor he'd worn for so long. By the end of the month, a subtle shift occurred. He started prioritizing self-awareness over public perception, realizing that true strength lay not in invincibility, but in authenticity. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, he felt ready to face it, one honest step at a time. In the weeks following his therapy sessions, Donald Trump emerged with a quiet determination to mend the fractures in his personal life. He reached out first to Robert's widow, Blaine, inviting her to lunch at Mar-a-Lago. The two had drifted apart after Robert's passing, but now Trump extended an olive branch. "I'm sorry if I wasn't there when you needed me," he admitted, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "Mom would have wanted us to stick together." Blaine nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "It's never too late to reconnect," she replied, offering him a warm smile that felt like forgiveness. Next, he turned his attention to Ivanka and Melania, hosting a private dinner at home. Over candlelight, he expressed gratitude for their unwavering support during his darkest days. "You both kept me grounded when I couldn't find my way," he said, raising a glass of wine. "Thank you." For the first time in years, laughter filled the room. Not forced or performative, but genuine. It was a small step toward healing, yet it carried profound significance. Inspired by his journey of self-discovery, Trump made a bold decision to write a deeply personal memoir titled "Lessons from My Mother." Sitting down with a ghostwriter, he poured out stories about Anne MacLeod, Trump's influence on his life. "She taught me resilience," he recounted one afternoon, his tone reflective. "No matter how hard things got, she always found a way to keep moving forward." The book wasn't political. Instead, it focused on universal themes: love, loss, identity, that transcended party lines. Each chapter wove together anecdotes from his childhood with lessons he'd carried into adulthood, painting a portrait of a woman whose strength defined generations. "This isn't just for me," Trump told the writer. "It's for anyone who's ever lost someone they loved." When Lessons from My Mother hit shelves, it struck a chord with readers nationwide. Lines formed outside bookstores as fans clamored for copies, while online retailers struggled to keep up with demand. Critics who once dismissed Trump as incapable of sincerity were silenced by the raw honesty of his prose. "Trump has given us something rare, a glimpse into his humanity," wrote one reviewer. "This book reminds us that behind every headline is a person shaped by love and loss." Social media buzzed with tributes inspired by the memoir. Celebrities shared photos of their own mothers alongside quotes from the book, while everyday people recounted how its messages resonated with their lives. Conversations about mental health and resilience flourished, sparking a cultural moment rooted in empathy. As the book climbed bestseller lists, Media coverage underwent a seismic shift. Late-night hosts who once mocked Trump's emotional displays now praised his vulnerability. "Maybe we judged him too harshly," admitted one comedian during a monologue, holding up a copy of the memoir. Even political rivals softened their stance. "Regardless of our differences, this book shows Trump's capacity for growth," remarked Senator Harris in an interview, "deserves recognition." The narrative around Trump evolved from skepticism to admiration, celebrating not his policies, but his humanity. Fans rallied behind him, calling him a symbol of redemption, while detractors grudgingly acknowledged his transformation. "It's not about politics anymore," Ivanka observed during a family dinner. "It's about connection." True to his word, Trump donated all proceeds from Lessons from My Mother to charities supporting single mothers and immigrants, causes close to his mother's heart. At a press conference announcing the decision, he stood flanked by beneficiaries of these organizations, their stories echoing Mary Ann's sacrifices. "My mom believed in helping those who needed it most," he explained, his voice steady with conviction. "This is my way of honoring her legacy." The gesture earned widespread acclaim, marking a pivotal moment in reshaping his public image. Headlines hailed him as compassionate and selfless, qualities few had associated with him before. Even former critics applauded the move, acknowledging its sincerity. "For once, he's putting others ahead of himself," commented a prominent journalist. "And it's changing everything." With the success of the book and charitable efforts, Trump embraced a new role. Not as a polarizing figure, but as a source of inspiration. He began speaking openly about the importance of mental health, urging others to confront their struggles without shame. "I used to think showing emotion was weakness," he confessed during a podcast interview. "But I've learned it's actually strength. You can't grow unless you're willing to face yourself." His humility resonated deeply, earning him newfound respect. People admired not just what he'd achieved, but how far he'd come. From a man defined by ambition to one redefined by authenticity, Melania watched proudly from the sidelines, noting the subtle changes in him. "He's finally at peace," she murmured to Ivanka one evening. "And so are we." Trump's transformation sparked a broader cultural shift, encouraging others to embrace vulnerability in their own lives. Social media campaigns like Real Stories and Behind the Headlines gained traction, urging public figures to share their struggles openly. Celebrities followed suit, posting heartfelt tributes to loved ones and candid reflections on fame. Ordinary individuals joined the movement, sharing their own journeys of loss and resilience. Through it all, Trump remained a central figure, not because of his wealth or power, but because of his courage to change. His story served as a reminder that even those in the spotlight are human, capable of growth, redemption, and grace. And somewhere, Anne MacLeod Trump looked down with pride, knowing her son had finally honored her in the most meaningful way possible. Donald Trump's transformation became a testament to the transformative power of authenticity. In an era where public figures often hid behind polished facades, his willingness to embrace vulnerability stood out as revolutionary. "It's easy to project strength," he mused during a reflective moment with Melania. "But real courage, that comes from being honest, even when it hurts." His journey reminded audiences that true resilience wasn't about invincibility. It was about facing judgment head-on and choosing sincerity over spectacle. For every critic who doubted him, there were countless others inspired by his ability to evolve. "People don't want perfection," Ivanka added thoughtfully one evening. "They want truth, and Dad gave them that." What began as a public unraveling ultimately became a catalyst for profound growth. Trump's emotional breakdown, the tears on camera, the walk-off mid-interview, had once seemed like moments of weakness, yet they revealed cracks in his armor, allowing light to shine through. "Pain forces you to confront things you'd rather ignore," he admitted during a candid conversation with Oprah Winfrey for her podcast. I didn't realize how much I needed that until it happened. Through therapy, writing lessons from my mother, and reconnecting with loved ones, he discovered parts of himself long buried under ambition and expectation. Each step forward underscored a universal truth. Resilience is forged in struggle, not despite it. I'm still learning, he confessed. But isn't that what life's about? The narrative surrounding Trump shifted dramatically, challenging audiences to see beyond headlines. Once viewed as divisive or untouchable, he emerged as proof that even the most polarizing figures carry humanity beneath their public personas. "He's just a man," Blaine remarked softly at a family gathering. "A son, a father, a husband, all trying to make sense of this crazy world." This revelation resonated deeply, sparking conversations about empathy for those in the spotlight. Celebrities and ordinary individuals alike reflected on the pressures faced by public figures, recognizing shared struggles despite differing lives. "Maybe we're all more alike than we think," Melania said quietly, watching news coverage praise Trump's evolution. Trump's story invited society to reflect on the complexities of fame, family dynamics, and identity. By sharing his vulnerabilities, he encouraged others to do the same, fostering a culture of understanding over division. At a charity gala honoring single mothers, he delivered a heartfelt speech. "We're all fighting battles no one sees," he told the audience. "Let's stop judging each other and start lifting each other up instead." The room erupted in applause, but the impact extended far beyond that night. Social media campaigns promoting empathy gained momentum, while schools incorporated discussions about mental health into curriculums. Even political adversaries acknowledged the shift. "If Trump can change, maybe there's hope for all of us," quipped a rival politician during a debate, drawing laughter and nods of agreement. In the end, Trump's journey served as a powerful reminder: compassion bridges divides, and humanity transcends headlines.